Welcome to the next installment of Caleb and Caleb's Dad. Today we're going to talk about a topic that applies to men of all ages. And then if we have time, we're going to get to a topic that applies to men probably over the age of about 45 or so. A category many of you are in, and a thing that that many of you have actually asked me about in terms of if you're an older man and you want to coach or mentor younger men. A lot of you have actually asked me about this, some of you guys. But first, we'll talk about, to get context for that. This is a question that a lot of you had, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit, is that what is the difference between mentorship and coaching? Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Go ahead.
So here's how I envision the difference. And this is, again, men coaching / mentoring other men. We'll keep that in the context because women are on a different path. We love women, but they're on a different path. Coaching is, I do a lot of coaching, less now than I used to, but I still do it. Matter of fact, I just did a coaching call a few minutes ago. Coaching is tactical. I want to accomplish a specific result in my business, or I want to accomplish a specific result in my fitness, or I want to accomplish a specific result in my dating life. And here's the result I want. How do I get from A to that result? To me, that is coaching. Is there mindset aspects to coaching? Absolutely there is. There has to be, especially if the difference in the condition between where you are and where you want to be is significant. So I'm not saying coaching is nothing but tactics. There are mental aspects to coaching. And I've been coaching a long time. I mean, I've been consulting for 35 years, and I've been coaching for about 13, 14. So I've done a lot of this stuff. Mentoring, I think, and Dad, this is where you need to correct me if I'm wrong. Mentoring is a little more broad. It's more about direction in life, what makes you happy, the overall direction you want to take your life. What are your fears? What makes you happy? What makes you unhappy? It's not as tactical, and it's a little more broad in its approach. That's how I view the word mentoring. But am I accurate on that? What do you think?
I think that's a good beginning. When I think about coaching, I think about if I were the coach, I would have a need to see the person I'm working with be successful.
Yeah.
I would want to push them in that direction. I would want to do what I could through a series of questions, let's say, help them develop a target and to reach that target. And I don't feel that what happens when I'm a mentor.
Oh,
What I
interesting.
do when I'm a mentor is close to this idea that we'll probably talk about a little later, that I think of when I think about being in the moment. When I think about a man at midlife versus an older man, or a younger man versus an older man, I think about a man doing for the young man, doing, creating, finding, focusing, creating a life with aspects of business and finance and education and so forth. When I think about the older man, I think about being. It's an idea of shifting from doing into a quieter space, a place where you just celebrate that you have had a life that might be shared. And so for me, I have a few questions that I would ask of any person who wanted to mentor. I'd like to go through those with you. The first one is, do I possess insight that might benefit someone else? A lot of people who look at second half of life mentoring are not comfortable with that idea. They see it as a big challenge. They're not confident that they can offer anything. And I believe that the true mentor has to be someone who knows they have something to mentor.
Why don't they think they have something to offer? Is it because are they looking at the logistical aspect and saying, I haven't accomplished anything? So are these men who are like in their 50s or 60s and say, well, I'm not a millionaire. I don't have six-pack abs. So what do I have to offer? Is that why, or is it just a more broad, why do I have any, why would anyone listen to me?
Your question is why?
Why would an older man have a problem with, do I have the insight to help other people?
A confidence. I think that it
I'm not
happens that
confident.
even though I've been on the planet many decades, which would suggest that I have some experience and insight, a lot of men are not willing to embrace that and try to offer it.
Well,
And so,
but you just said, unless I'm not hearing you right, it's because they think they don't have enough to offer, or they just don't want to.
no, it's neither one.
Oh,
They think they may have something to offer, but they feel like it's very difficult for them to enter into a mentoring relationship. They don't feel confident. It requires a kind of sense of willingness. It's a sense of celebration of life. It just takes a kind of energy that a lot of men don't have. They would be intimidated by entering into a mentoring relationship.
that's so alien to me and to you because we're wired the opposite. We like to help, and we feel we can help, both you and me.
Well, of course, look at the topic we raised for today.
Right, no kidding. But it's just so strange to me that a man over 50, even over 45, would be uncomfortable. I just such a different thought than
Yeah, I'll
I would
give you a
have.
couple of examples. A lot of the men I've worked with, people of my generation, have recovered from various life challenges, like alcoholism, divorce,
Yeah.
uh, criminal behavior, and you have to grow out of those life challenges to be comfortable, and it's a lifelong challenge.
I see.
And so a lot of people just aren't there yet even if they're 70 or 80. And so,
And and it's so strange because someone, for example, who's beat alcoholism, you know better than I do how difficult that is and what an amazing accomplishment that is, how
yeah,
magical and special and powerful it is to beat alcoholism. That's one of the hardest things in the world that a human being has to go through. And
to your
yeah,
point, one of the best example of mentors are the people in Alcoholics Anonymous. This is
mm,
a decades-long organization that has no structure except that people come together in a room and support each other in recovery. And one of
well, it
the,
has the 12 steps, right?
huh?
It has the 12 steps.
Yeah, it has the 12 steps. And a lot of the men and women who go through this Alcoholics Anonymous experience get to a point where they want to watch over other people going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And so they are, in a way, they call them sponsors, but in a way, they're mentors.
Hmm.
And the sponsor isn't there to drive you in any direction. The sponsor is there to be accessible to you, to listen to you, and not to be disciplined by that person, but to be held. And so this gets to the other part of mentoring that's important to me. Well, I don't know how you feel about coaching, but when I enter into a mentoring relationship, I'm mentoring into a relationship of mutual consent, a relationship where both the mentor and the mentee uh, build energy together and build trust together. And I hope that happens with coaches, but I'm not sure. So let me go back to these questions again. As I said, first, I think I need to possess insight. I have to believe that I possess insight
Hmm.
and that I want to share it. That's the challenging part. Other questions would be, am I willing to share, period? Am I on a pathway of being a resource to other people? Now, incidentally, there's about 6 questions here. And if you say no to any of them, I don't think you're ready to mentor.
Okay.
And another
Because so
question,
far, as you ask these questions, I'm asking them for myself, and I have a big yes so far.
yeah,
But again, I don't know if I'm typical. I think you and I are probably not typical in this respect.
well, clearly that's this role, acting as an advocate for another person in the way we're talking about it, only fits certain people. So I agree.
Yeah.
Another question I ask is, can I consistently follow up with this person? Do I have the time and the interest to check in with that person, to make sure I don't lose contact with them, not to monitor them, not to blame them for not having shown up, but just to stay in touch. It's hard work, a mentoring relationship, and you have to be devoted in my judgment. And so I need to answer the question, can I do that kind of follow-up? Am I willing to put the time in? Another one is this the kind of interaction that I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Am I the kind of person that wants to be in a relationship where I'm building a connection to another person, and that person may grow as a result of that, or they may depend on me and my feedback? That question, I think, needs to be meditated on. Another one is, do I have something in common with this person? It would be really tough for me to be a mentor in a relationship with someone that I didn't start out being comfortable with, let's say. For example, I would have a hard time mentoring a Republican. I have some strong political bias.
Yes,
and
you do.
It's liberal. And so I've been in conflict with people who are not Democrats, and it's been difficult, and I don't want to do that anymore. I even, as you know, one of your brothers is a Republican, and I haven't been able to maintain a high quality relationship with him, let alone a mentoring relationship, because of our political differences.
This is really quick. This is why I made the decision years ago. Coaching is very similar to everything you're talking about. I don't coach women, with rare exception, and I try not to. Not because I don't like women. I actually prefer working with dominant, strong women. I prefer working with men. I like working with men too. So I love working with women in terms of a relationship, but in terms of coaching, I'm wired too differently. And I've tried many years ago in the past coaching women, not mentoring, but coaching, but similar. And I had problems. There were issues more than once with more than one person. Finally, say, you know what? I shouldn't be doing this. I should not be mentoring, coaching women. I'm just too different. I'm too wired too differently. I also have a more masculine personality too. So I'm sure if I was more balanced like you are, maybe I'd have an easier time with it. But yes.
That's an important judgment, to know where you are comfortable, where you're not, because you want the mentee to end up feeling comfortable.
Right. That's the whole point. Right.
Yeah. And then for the man who's still working and building his career, he may not have time for this responsibility. So I'm asking that question. Is this the time of my life where I really want to take this on? Is this a high priority in relation to my other priorities? So if you could answer no to those questions, I would say you need to take time to, before you enter consciously into that relationship.
And those can all apply to coaching. All of those can apply to coaching.
Yeah, when I think of the word coach or leader, I don't think of a mentor or an elder in the way that I embrace the idea of the archetype of elder.
I agree.
I don't think an elder is a leader. I think a leader is usually from a younger generation. The elder is no longer in need of being in charge of some system, and may be out of touch, in fact, with what is modern in terms of leadership skills. So I really don't think that leadership and mentoring are compatible. Would be wonderful if that was true.
I'll give you an example, unless I interrupted you, unless you had a thought you wanted to complete.
No, go ahead.
So purely coincidentally, this is God working in my life. A few hours ago, I had a long meeting with one of my coaches, someone who coaches me, and we're starting a new relationship. It's a coaching program that I'm a part of for business owners, and this is a new, much higher end coach. This is someone who's made millions and millions of dollars, international businessman. And he's very excited to be a coach. This is coach now. One of the questions he asked me was, he says, Caleb, have you heard of the coach A, coach B scenario? I said, no, actually, I haven't heard of that. That's a new one on me. I should probably know this because I'm a coach myself. He said, well, coach A, this relates to what you said a minute ago. There's Coach A. Let's say you're an athlete, you're an Olympian, you're training for the Olympics, you're a 100-yard dash, and Coach A motivates you. You can do it. All right. Hey, you did it. You did great. And let's do it again. And we'll try to beat our last record. You're doing great. He's a cheerleader and he's motivational and he's friendly and he's there as a positive influence to get you to improve. That's Coach A. Coach B doesn't do any of that. Coach B says, all right, run it. Now run it again. Great. Now run it again. You fall down, get up, run it again. You better be here at 5 a.m. If you're not here at 5 a.m., he comes to your house and bangs on your door and gets you out of bed. Let's go. And right? And he's on you. And he asked me, which coach do you prefer? Which one do you want me to be? And I answered, because of where I am in my life right now, I said, give me Coach B. Give me, that's probably the opposite of a mentor. Maybe not. I said, give me Coach B. Matter of fact, I've had business coaches in the past that were too much Coach A. And Coach A is fine. A little bit of Coach A is good, but I want results. So if you yell at me and tell me what I'm doing wrong and correct, give me Coach B. He's like, all right, I'm Coach B. I said, you don't have to be a complete asshole. You could be nice. A little bit of Coach A is like, goes, well, of course, that's fine. But I wanted to understand from you, Caleb, which of the two coaches that you wanted. And I would imagine that you would never have, as a mentor, you would never have Coach A, Coach B. It's mostly A and maybe something else.
Yeah,
but that
Coach B doesn't ring the same bells as mentoring does to me.
No, not at all. I think that's almost the opposite. So that'd be an extreme example of what a coach is.
Another thing that I contrast it with is teaching. Mentoring, to me, unlike teaching, is a process of being present for another person, offering support and holding a container of energy. It is almost a philosophical role or a spiritual role. A teacher is, again, like Coach B, providing a pathway and saying, this is the facts that I have understood. I'm going to share those with you. You can embrace these, or you can tell me that you don't believe me, but that still is an agenda. The teacher has an agenda. The mentor really follows the mentee in terms of setting an agenda. If the mentee gets off track, for example, which would draw the attention of Coach B.
Oh, yeah.
So the mentor's inclination wouldn't be to say, get back on track. It would be to ask a question. How are you doing? What's going on with you at this moment? How do you feel? And so you can see here that it's part of the reason I am comfortable with mentoring is that I was a psychotherapist, because some of the same skills come into play.
I was just thinking this, it sounds very similar to therapy. Not the same thing, but very similar. It's more feeling based and how do you feel, and right?
Yeah, and I also think it has I don't know if it's philosophical or spiritual, but it has to do with a celebration of others, a hope for the sake of the other, and I don't have a word for that. So
what if you're in a mentor-mentee relationship and the mentee does fuck up and is not making progress on what he wants to make progress on? If you're too much mentor and Coach A, what then? Do you terminate the relationship? Do you press at all? Because I'm sure you've had this scenario with people you've mentored and people in your therapist practice who just didn't do what you told them to do at all, and didn't ever came around. I've had that with coaching. They just didn't do anything and they kept having problem after problem. What do you do then? As a coach, I know what I would do. That's an easy answer, but what would you do as a mentor?
Yeah, I would leave a relationship that wasn't working.
You would. Okay.
I would say that to the person, that I don't feel we're compatible. I don't think we have the same interests. I don't think that I'm going to be a resource to you.
But I have a feeling you would give him several chances before you had that conversation.
Oh yeah, you bet. We would develop towards that.
Yeah.
But I have had to pull out of relationships.
You have?
Yeah.
So you've had to do this in the past. And that's what you said, I don't think I could be a resource for you?
Yeah, for example, one of the ways that I've developed my mentoring opportunity is to be a spiritual director. Now, I told you in one of our last sessions, this is a formal role that you're trained in, and you become an advocate for another person's spiritual journey, right? So I was doing that at one point, and I got it. Had a couple of people come to me who are in a kind of an education program, and so they were asked to come and experience what I would offer because they've never been to spiritual direction before. And it turned out that the fellow that I'm thinking about right now was a born again Christian. And one of the things that happens to born again Christians, not all of them, but many, is that they believe that they were born bad and they have to be saved by a savior.
Right.
And so one of the other things that's difficult for them is to celebrate themselves, to not only dwell on the fact that they're a sinner, but to look at the things that are beautiful about themselves. And I suggested to this fellow inappropriately, I think I was wrong in doing this. Have you ever considered celebrating some of your skills instead of complaining about the difficulty of being yourself? And we lost contact. He just kind of shut down. He kind of knew that I wasn't on the same track that he was, and I could hear that. And so we were done.
Now, I have a question. You reminded me of something, a conversation you and I had a long, long time ago that I just remembered. I'm not Christian at all, as you're aware. I don't believe any of that stuff. But if you put a gun to my head and force me to pick a Christian sub-denomination or sect, it would be the Unitarian Church. And the Unitarians.
Oh, yes.
Right. And because they're very much into abundance and tapping into the universe and stuff that I'm really into. So if you put it, I still would not do that. But if you put a gun in my head and force me to convert, I say, all right, I'll be Unitarian. And I remember you and I were discussing the Unitarian Church specifically a long time ago. I don't know where this came out of my brain, but it's something you said. And you said, and maybe you don't believe this anymore, but you said back then, this is a long time ago, you said, Unitarians are great. The problem with Unitarians is that they don't embrace the dark side. There's no dark side in Unitarian, and you said you need some kind of dark side. As a matter of fact, you said you talked to your friend that was a Unitarian and said, the problem with you Unitarians is like your stuff, but you don't embrace the dark side at all. And you said that he said, yeah, you're right. We don't. We probably should, but we don't. And he kind of agreed with you.
I did not say to you that you need a dark side. What I was saying is you have a dark side, and to just dwell on the light and not dwell on your full self, which includes your failures, your fears, your dark side, is incomplete, in my opinion. And incidentally, we're talking about unity, not Unitarian. There's quite a difference between the two.
Oh, did I say that incorrectly? Unity Church, yes.
Unitarian is very kind of intellectual trip. They're very kind of touchy-feely, like you said, but unity is much more that way. And unity.
Oh, the Unity Church. All right. So for those of you listening, I didn't mean Unitarian. I meant Unity Church. Sorry. Yeah. The Prosperity Church, which is the Unity Church. Yeah. I've read entire books written by Unity Church people really into the prosperity consciousness and all that stuff that I'm really into. But yeah, they don't address the dark side at all. Whereas the typical born again standard Christian that we think of, what we call on the internet tradcons, the traditional conservative Christians, are all about the dark side. They dwell too much in the dark side. What you just said, right? We're guilty and men are terrible, and not men, human beings are sinners, and because we Adam and Eve, and you're like, really? Okay. So what it sounds like you're saying is there's polar opposites, and you want to be somewhere in the middle. You want to be positive but acknowledge your dark side, right?
Well, yeah, to me, it makes no sense to just address a portion of who you are. That if you really want to get a look at who you are and develop yourself, you need to look at all aspects of self. And I know we all have personal challenge. You could call it the dark side. Mm-hmm. Another thing I think about in mentoring is, and it's probably very true of coaches, many coaches, and I believe you have a sincere interaction that contains enthusiasm and an expression of a genuine mutual interest. That you really do excite yourself by being with this person. They feel that energy. There's a shared field of energy when it works. If it doesn't, if it's a failed mentoring relationship, part of it's because you didn't get there. And I can't really give you a formula for how you get to that energy field, but I know that's what my
I
target
felt
is.
it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, can you
Yeah.
describe?
Can I describe the feeling?
Yeah,
You both are energized at the end of the conversation, even if you're an introvert.
okay.
That's how I describe. I'm an introvert, so talking to people drains me, especially if it's multiple people. One-on-one, not so much. But at the end of the conversation, you feel really good. You feel good as the coach / mentor, and they feel good. You're both like, oh, this was great. That's I've experienced that many times. Yeah.
Another thing I think about is that because I don't think it's real clear as I describe mentoring, because to some people it probably sounds a little bit like teaching, it sounds like counseling, it sounds like coaching.
Sounds like counseling.
And truly, as a mentor, I have shared information that I think assists the mentee in adjusting to a new environment, a market, I mean, a job or some social milieu. But the mentor is primarily a listener, even though I've offered some ideas on how to cope. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but again, what if you're listening to things you as the mentor completely disagree with? Like you said, if you had a mentee who is talking about how great Donald Trump was and how these damn liberals are destroying the United States, and he was really getting into it, that how do you handle that? Now,
I would,
that's not typical, but you
I
know,
would, what I wouldn't do as a mentor is challenge that. What I would do is ask questions to cause this person to come up with their own answers and do it in such a way as they begin to see what they haven't maybe paid attention to before.
so
And
then
if,
you would mentor a Republican.
no, because I know I would fail very quickly because I'm so biased.
So you would not mentor a Republican who is very hardcore about his beliefs, like my brother. But if you had someone who had Republican beliefs and that wasn't a big part of their life, you probably would be okay with that, or no.
Well, to your point, I can get along with my son too, your brother. I mean, it's not as if we don't communicate.
Right.
We just stay away from that area. But one of my best friends is a Republican, and we just have this natural ability to stay away from those things that set each other off when you get into a political discussion. We just don't go there.
Yeah, well, that's what I do with my wife. So not so much anymore because she's changing her spiritual beliefs. But historically, we've been together over a decade. I am I don't I can't describe what I am. I'm very non-Christian. I'm not an atheist, but I'm very, very non-Christian. It's all BS, it's all societal programming, all that stuff, just like, Islam, just like Judaism, just like everything else. And she was, not so much anymore, but for most of our relationship was Christian. And if I started talking about Jesus, like, do you really believe Jesus like made loaves and fishes appear out of nowhere like Star Trek? Do you really think he walked on water? Really? She would get agitated. So we had to come up with an agreement that we wouldn't talk about religion. And it worked great. We don't. Now, lately she started getting into the more I don't know if you call it new age anymore. New age, new thought. She's getting more into that now. She's moving away from Christian. And that has nothing to do with me because I'm not into new age either. So that's changing now, and she's mellowed on it. But we did that too, and we're married, and we love each other, and that all worked fine.
That shows a lot of maturity. That's wonderful. But a lot of people can't get there. And
Yeah, a lot of Americans in particular. One of your issues is that you're an American.
yeah,
Americans have a thing about politics that other people in cultures right now don't. Paraguay, they don't care about Republican or left or right. They don't give a shit about that here. Or
yeah,
Dubai,
being an
they don't care.
American for me can sometimes get in the way. You bet. You bet.
Yeah, it does.
I think in the mentoring relationship, there's also a give and take from both sides. I think that the mentee is reaching out as well, not just taking in. I think that if it's an effective mentoring relationship, the mentee is stirred to ask themselves questions. They may ask me questions too, but I wouldn't be trying to come up with an answer as much as want to know why they asked the question. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Let's see if there's anything
That
else.
would be a difference between coaching and mentorship. If I'm a coach, I'm not reaching out for information.
Right.
With rare exception. I'm not, that's not on my agenda as a coach. So that's, you just uncovered one of the biggest difference between coaching, probably a big difference between coaching and mentorship. As a coach, I'm soliciting information about the person's position and problems, but I'm not looking to learn anything new unless they mention something interesting.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that is not a priority for me at all as a coach.
I would say that a mentor enters a relationship in one of the motivations is to learn.
Well, our past videos, you and I, are a good example of that. I was interviewing you. That's how I felt. And then you started asking me questions and you were learning from me I wasn't planning on you learning from me in these videos, but
Yeah.
it looks like you did.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Um, for me, mentoring is not a one-time encounter. It's something that lasts over time to be effective. Um, and so I might say I had a conversation with somebody and they seemed to get in a good place because of something I said. And I wouldn't call that mentoring. That was just a lucky
Yeah.
break.
Yeah.
And so for me, building a relationship with a person is a long-term process. And there has to be a mutual commitment to that. If I enter in that relationship, I would say to the person, okay, you're willing to put some time in on this because I am, and I don't think it's going to work otherwise.
I have two questions about this overall, but I want to make sure you finish your points first.
Yeah, I pretty much covered it, what I was thinking of.
So I know we're going to get this question from the people watching. Questions from both sides. So one question is, I'm a man and I get this question all the time. I don't know what to tell people. And we address this a little bit on some of these videos. I am a man and I want to find a mentor, maybe younger men, but even older men need mentors. I need them. I mean, I'm an old man. I need mentors. So I'm a man. I need a mentor. Coaching is a little easier, but a mentor, I need that kind of relationship. I'm hungry for that. Where do I find it? Where do I go? And then the alternate question is the other side. I am an older man or a more experienced man, maybe over 45-ish, and I would like to do this. I would like to mentor other men. Where do I get started? So let's start with the first question first. I get asked this a lot. Where do I find a mentor, Caleb? I'm like, ask people you know. I don't have a solid answer. I have some answers to that question, but I don't have a solid system for that. So what would you say?
Well,
Man wants a mentor who is another man, not a counselor, not necessarily a coach.
yeah,
And maybe it's a paid relationship. Maybe it's not a paid relationship. Doesn't matter. But he wants that. Where does he get started?
I would go where I am trusted and where the other person in my judgment I can trust. Now, that would, for me, start in the family. Now, a lot of people don't have families they can spend time with in this way. But that's one place I would think about is a relationship with an uncle or an aunt or a grandparent, something like that. I think that can be a very effective and loving mentor relationship. Beyond that, you don't know where you could go shopping. What I do know is that I would need to spend time with someone I trust. And there's certain people, for example, physicians. Most physicians, because I've had plenty in my life, are scientists, and thank goodness for that. But occasionally, you run into a physician who is really connected to me. They spend time with me. They don't want to move to the next client too quickly, and that really draws me. It says to me that this person is not in this business just to share their science, but because they're excited about being with human beings. And that's the kind of person I want to be with.
Okay, let's flip it. So I know you have a lot of information on this. You could probably go for an hour on this one. Let's summarize it. You are a man and you would like to be a mentor or mentor other men. That's something you feel you want to do. Where do you get started? Where do they get started?
I really believe in education. You can find workshops on that topic.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure you could. A good point.
You can
Yeah.
Google anything.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
Beyond that, I don't, unless I knew of someone who had this kind of a practice, that they've been in their life spending time doing mentoring, I wouldn't know where to go. I would want to go and spend time with people who are curious, and that would be in a workshop.
Do mentors have a specialty, or are they just life mentors? Can you be a business mentor? Probably not. I mean, I guess you could, but when the mentorship that you're describing is not, like I said at the beginning of
Oh,
this, it's
you're
more
acquainted,
broad. It's not
you're acquainted with SCORE, and
right,
SCORE is
right,
the
of course.
counseling side of the Small Business Administration. And the people who volunteer to sit with a person who wants to enter into business is a mentor. And so I do believe that there is a real compatible potential.
That's not coaching. Score isn't coaching.
Oh,
I guess maybe it's a gray area for them.
I think it's both. I mean, clearly you're going to be sharing information, and that would be coaching, but you're also needing to be sensitive to the person, to have a sense for who they are, how they feel, to confront your own bias when the person comes in to talk with you. I think that the SCORE counselor, although they're not trained, they're all you take a risk when you go to a SCORE counselor because we're not trained. But I did it for 10, 20 years. And I did it mostly because I wanted to hear what that person had to say. And I wanted them to say, hey, I talked to somebody today who listened to me. They weren't just lecturing to me. But a lot of the SCORE counselors got in trouble because all they wanted to do was tell people what to do. That is not mentoring.
That's Coach B.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How long did you do score mentoring? How long did you do that for?
About 20 years.
Yeah, for a long time. I remember you
It
doing
was
that.
part-time.
If you guys don't know what score is SCORE. It's nonprofit, right? Is it government or
Yeah.
nonprofit? It's nonprofit. And if you have a small business, you can go in and get advice from like retired executives or retired business owners to give you, and is it free or do you got to pay a fee? Is it free?
No, it's free. Yes.
It's free. So if you're in the United States, I'm sorry, if you're not in the United States, I don't think they have this, but if you're in the US, every major city has a score. I don't know if they follow, excuse me, Alpha 2.0 business models or not, but that's what we're afraid to. And so that's what my dad did for 20 years.
Well,
Um,
getting back to your question about how would I find a mentor? If I were to go to a SCORE counselor, I would shop them like I would lettuce or a cucumber. I would go from person to person until I found a place I was comfortable. And so I wouldn't just accept the first person they gave me.
yeah. So a technique I tell people is I call it the rule of three. And if you need to hire someone or bring someone on into your life, mentor, coach, doctor, therapist, accountant, doesn't matter who it is, any sort of advisor or regular person, you need to assume that the first person won't work and assume that you're going to probably have to talk to two or three to get to that third one, who is the one you'll end up with. Now, sometimes, even if you hire someone, if you hire someone in your business, you'll probably have to fire them. They're probably going to suck. You have to fire them, bring in the second person, fire him or her, and then the third person will be the one you work with. And if you find that the first or second person ends up being the one you like, that works out, great. You celebrate, but you don't assume it. You assume it's going to be the third. Because what people do is, to your point, they go in, the first person that shows up, oh, great, great. And they start working that person and it doesn't work and they get mad. Well, that's the norm. First person probably won't work. You need to do the second to third person.
Yeah, I think you have to be really lucky to get one on the first try.
Yes, and I have, but it's rare. Usually you don't get the first person. I have, it's happened. Yeah, to your point. So yeah, shop. Correct. How are we doing on time here? 40 minutes. I'm trying to decide whether or not we should pivot to the other topic or not.
I can start on it. We can come back to it and finish it another time.
All right, let's talk about that. So we're going to pivot slightly to address, this is for older men. So correct me if I'm wrong. We discussed this before we started the recording. Older men. So we're going to define older as over 45-ish, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if you're under 45, you could just listen if you would like. Over 45, if you want to be a mentor or what my dad calls an elder, What is that? Is it one and the same? Elder and mentor is the one and the same?
Oh, I've never really figured that out. I just know that the concept of the archetype of elder works well for me. Mentor is certainly part of that.
Yeah. And I've already done this. I'm over 45 and I mentor slash coach men of all ages, including men who are older than me, but most of them are younger than me just because of statistical, internet stuff. Most guys interested in my topics tend to be younger than 53, but not all of them. And so this is a phase that I've already entered into. This is a phase my dad has been into for decades now. I mean, you've been mentoring or eldering for since you were 50, since you were my age. So
Oh,
30
no, I
years
think I
or
started
longer.
when I was 30.
30. Well, that was therapy. That's different as a therapist.
I was actually a supervisor of therapists. Yeah.
Right. So well, if you count therapy as mentoring, you're right. You've done it your whole life.
Oh, sure. It's one of the versions of
Oh, well,
it.
then there you go. So you've been doing this for 60 years or whatever. A long damn time.
Yeah.
Right. So you have the 7 phases, right?
Yeah.
Of eldership. Okay, we might not get to all those. We might have to cut this short, but let's start with that. I'll ask you questions as you go.
Uh, in the Mankind Project, which I think I've mentioned before, we want, because we have thousands of men who are members all over the world. And when they get into the second half of life, we want to make resources out of them to the extent that they're willing. And
Yeah,
so we've done training. And so we base the training on these, what I call 7 stages. And
cool.
it's our judgment as the trainers of the elders that there are steps that you're going to go through. And so we want to base our training on that. And so what I was saying before when we started today is that what it starts with is the person having a sense that this would work for them. They may have heard a little bit about what it's like to be a mentor, or in this case, an elder, but they're not sure that it really fits them. And so you have to uh, move with kind of a consciousness that feels like a fair bet. And then, because I think when you decide to be a resource to other people, to spend time with people, to be an advocate for other people, it's a big responsibility. And so I think you need to make a choice about that. Am I really willing to put forth this kind of energy
Yeah.
on behalf of other people? Or am I just doing it because I want to sound good? I want to look good.
Yes.
This is a good way to spend time and it looks very attractive.
Yeah, there are lots of men on the internet who are in that second category. They're doing it because they like how they sound. It makes them look cool and confident. They're not there really to form bonds or to get results for other people. Correct.
Yeah, another way I describe that, I'm talking here about what I call the choice. To me, the choice is about harvesting your long life. I have this feeling that I've thought a lot about that if you've been on the planet a number of decades, you've been through a lot, you've experienced a great deal. Whether or not you think you have anything to share because of that is up to you. But nevertheless, you do. I have met, for example, young people, 20s, who look to me to be very wise. There are a few very exceptional people like that, but they're not elders because it takes decades to get to a place where you really are grounded enough to be able to understand and be a resource to other people. So I might have been a young wise man, but I'm not ready to take care of other people. And I think after decades, you have an opportunity to test whether or not you're ready for that.
And
Oh,
I that goes back to spirituality and being a certain point in life. I can coach people on certain topics and do very well with those. I could never right now in my life, I could never mentor someone in the spiritual aspect of life like you could. I could not do that. I'm not there. I'm
you
not
know,
nearly grounded enough to do that.
one
Now,
reason why you can't is that you're a doer. You know how to accomplish a great deal. In teaching people, in writing, building an investment portfolio, you're a doer. When I enter into this idea of being a resource to other people, I'm moving from doing into more of a being state. It's not doing. It's not as if I stop doing, but I do less, and I quiet myself. I wake up in the morning with hope about this. I pray about it because I am a spiritual person. But I dwell on the idea of who I am at the moment. And I think I've told you before, because I'm 85, I'm lucky. I don't have to, I don't have as many regrets about the past as I used to, because I am so close to the end of life. It really is a waste of energy for me to worry about where I have been. But I did that a lot when I was 40 and 50 and 60.
I was there. Yes, you did.
And
When you talk about being, that's very exciting for me because that's what I'm working toward, is to be more being and less doing. But in my case, I don't know if I could ever uh, be 100% be. I don't know if I could ever reach where you are just because of my personality.
don't misunderstand. You don't want to be 100% B. You want to continue to do.
Well, even whatever the optimal percentage of B is, that's an interesting question. Is it 80% B and 20% doer when you reach this point in life? I don't know what that percentage is, but whatever percentage I'm probably fantasizing about, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could be 100% to that percentage of, let's say it's 80-20. I don't know if I could get to 80. I don't know if I, and that's why I think I told you this when I said, when I hit a certain income threshold, hopefully in the next few months or next year, I've told my family that I'm going to cut back to 4 days a week, working 4 days a week instead of 7. And I think I told you this, how both my wife and my daughter, it's not that they don't believe me. They have trouble believing me. They're like, "Nah." And they're not totally wrong. I will be really uncomfortable making that shift. I'm uncomfortable now taking 1 day a week off, and I should logistically for productivity, and that makes me uncomfortable. So I don't know if I will ever. Maybe I will. I don't know if I'll ever reach whatever percentage you are. I don't know if I'll reach that ever. I might not. I might still be in my 70s doing a lot of shit.
You've got the curiosity and you have the life experience. You're not a young man anymore. And so you do have a pathway that you have built. And so your curiosity and your long life experience are a good start. We'll see how you turn out.
We'll see.
So then to me, the work comes next. What work do I have to go through to really be a true elder? One that is going to be an advocate for others, and I don't sit around just whine about who I am or whine about when I'm going to die. One of my biggest problems is a lot of my associates, people my age, spend a lot of time whining. It's real easy to get into because your body begins to give way at a certain time. And you can cry about that a lot. But to me, it is a real diversion to what I'm talking to you about now. The being state is not about taking care of your broken leg or your prostate cancer or whatever. It's about moving into a greater place than what your body takes you to. And so what I feel happens is that you begin to face the shadow of old age. You have not been dying until you get to this stage of life. When you get to the second half of life, you're closer to the end than to the beginning. And that's a shadow that I think one needs to address. Okay, I am closer to the end of life. What am I going to do with that? And there's a lot of things that come out of that question.
You've addressed that amazingly. I'm shocked at how well you've addressed this. I didn't think you would address it as well as you have. You're very at peace with this. And I don't think I would be if I was your age. I'd be like, God, oh no. I think I'd have a problem with it. You've really accomplished something special with this.
In some ways, your grandfather taught me how to do this because he wasn't prepared either and never did get prepared. And so because of the mistakes he made as an older man in our family, I wanted to be different than that. For example, I have, as you know, spent a lot of time on preparing my family for what to do when I die.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't do that. They don't care what their children have to go through. And to me, it's very important. It includes writing my life story, and that's up to like 200 pages. I've been working on that for decades, so that you'll have that information when you're curious about it. My dad never wrote a thing down. I asked him once, can you speculate on a tape recorder for my sake about your life? He said, I'll try. And he couldn't do it.
He couldn't do it.
No, he couldn't do it. He turned it on once and talked for a few minutes, but it didn't last.
Well,
So
your
anyway,
dad was very into the real world like I am. So I'm not surprised to hear you say that about him. Let's do we have to wrap this up in about 3 minutes because I have another call. So let's do one more. Just do one more phase. And we'll
okay,
continue.
I'm still in the third phase of
Oh,
where
okay,
I
okay.
think
All
we're
right.
facing old age, because I think it's really important part.
Mhm.
Our culture, the American culture again, that I have trouble with,
Yep.
defines old age as a time of decline and disengagement.
Yes.
And if that's what you think, you can't be an elder, you can't be a mentor if you're disengaging. You've got to re-engage with a whole different set of goals. And so when the doctor who specializes in aging talks about, well, you're disengaging, you're pulling back, bullshit. That is not going to work for me, not because of my pathway. And so choosing otherwise to me will sometimes feel like swimming against a current, because everybody thinks that life ends at around age 60. I was raised to think that when I got to retirement, I was done.
Yeah.
Well, that has been so untrue for me. Each decade has been a real surprise. And so,
And again, this is very American. You don't have this problem in Asia with old people,
yeah,
right? You don't.
I don't know. Don't live in Asia.
Well, you don't nearly as much. You know, old people in Western cultures is like you disengage, get in my RV and play golf and just stop, or sit on your ass and watch TV all day. A lot of that. You're right, but that's a uniquely Western thing.
One of my final thoughts about that, because I know we're about done, is this country that I complain about was created by young people. All the people came over here to create this country, left the old people in the old country, and all the young ones who had strength and energy and curiosity were the
Right.
ones who founded America.
That's
All of
correct.
our principles are based on youth principles.
Mm,
And for example, you've heard of manifest destiny?
of course.
This is what we were celebrating in the 18th century, that said, because we deserve it, we're going to go across America and take over. And we did that, and we killed everybody in our way.
Yeah.
We've
It's the American way.
We've done away with 90% of the natives
Yeah.
in that manifest destiny, which is nonsense, but it's excitement from the youth to take over and build a land.
Yeah. Right. This is why we talk about like gun control.
Yeah.
Left wingers like you who are into gun control, and they'll say, well, look, it works in Japan. Guns are illegal in Japan. It works great over there. I'm like, well, wait a second. Japan's culture and American culture are very different. Japan is not an overly violent culture like Americans are. So if you took a bunch of AK-47s, loaded machine guns, and dropped them in a big pile in the middle of Tokyo, Japan right now and say, pick one, take one, they'd be like, oh, I don't want a gun. They would just look at the guns going, what the hell? Now you do that in Chicago or Dallas, Texas, and there'd be people shooting guns. There'd be blood in the streets because we're Americans. It's a different culture. Right. Let's wrap this up, but next week we'll complete this. And then I want to talk about raising kids. We're getting a lot of questions about that.
Okay.
And you say you don't have a lot of advice, but you do. You have grandkids stuff, but raising kids stuff too, including adult children. You can do little kids, teenage kids, adult kids. I have experience doing that. You have experience doing that. We get a lot of questions about that. Let's talk about that next time.
I'll try. I feel like all I did was stand and get out of your way, and you guys grew up on your own.
No, you did more than that.
Well, I know, but I do say that, but I feel like I was pretty much laissez-faire.
Well, I can prompt you because I've seen how other dads operate besides you. I was lucky to have you as a dad. A lot of guys watch this don't have dads or have pussy dads or absentee dads. And so I think that'll be a really good discussion.
Okay, I'll look forward to it.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Dad.
Nice to be with you.